Good morning. Good morning. It's Lauren Hinds with Craft Some Joy, and I'm so happy if you're joining me today. I am just going to finish getting set up so that I can chat with you. And let me go and find myself. So let's see. Welcome, welcome. And oh gosh, it looks like I do have some glare. Let me see if I can take care of that for you. As I'm going to be sharing a completed album with you this morning. So, anybody else feeling COVID brain as much as me? Because here's the funny story. I did a scrapbook, I did a live, YouTube live yesterday because yesterday I thought it was Friday. Anybody else have had that happen since we've all been on this stay home? You're getting your days mixed up. I got my days completely mixed up. And so yesterday, for a good portion of the day, I thought it was Friday. So I went on live and I had a conference call and did everything I was supposed to do on Friday yesterday, which was actually Thursday. So I'm happy to be back. I'm so glad that you're back here with me. And why don't you just, hi Lynn, hello. You can't keep track of the days either. Oh my goodness, it was quite embarrassing when I finally figured that out. So anyhow, welcome back. Yesterday I did a process video, and so I thought, well, let's not do that again today, even though when I did my poll, most of you guys wanted to see a process video, but I thought what today would be kind of fun to do would be to talk a little bit about, do a flip through and talk a little bit about layout and all this kind of thing. So anyhow, as people are joining me, I just want to say, yay, album flip through. Okay, good. I just want to say, I know a lot of you wanted that too. So you get the best of both worlds. There's the silver lining for having COVID brain, which is you guys get both. You get the process video yesterday and you get the flip through today. So there's always something positive to look for, right? And for those of you who are joining me for the first time, hello again. Anita is back with us. And for those of you who might be viewing this video after or are joining me for the first time, I just want to remind you that there are a lot of videos on my channel about the Progress on Projects series, which is how I have this wonderful tracker, this pop series tracker. And so today I'm just going to show you what I'm working on. This is my 2006 Volume 2 family book. And so this is one of the things that we have in our pop planners, which is a tracker. And I just wanted to bring this up because there's a lot of folks who write in and say, you know, I really needed a place to get myself organized, and this is the place, right, guys? This is the place. I get a lot of comments from people who say, I'm so excited to start scrapbooking again, but I can't even remember where I left off. And that's exactly, I know that feeling. So it's great to write it all down. And you can see here, I have albums that are not started. I have albums that are in process, and I have my completed albums, but it's nice just to have a place to put them all. So today we're going to look at my Family 2006 Volume 2. And like I said, I will, I got to get back in and for my live videos and give you some information if you're new on how to get to the pop series and the pop planner. But for those of you who know all about it, you know that I also have a Facebook group, which Lynn, yay, Lynn is helping me manage, which is awesome. I appreciate you so much, Lynn. Thank you. And let's see. And Lynn said it just started snowing. She's in southwestern New York. Oh, Debbie's from Ohio. Good morning. From here, Southern Cal, it's morning. Oh, froze just my phone. Margie. Okay. I don't know. Maybe go out and come back in. I'm not quite sure. Okay, so let's get started. So, as I mentioned, this is my Hinds family 2006, and here's something that I wanted to just mention. So, you can see this is my volume 2. I'm going to get that in the camera so you can see. So, this was done way back. Okay, you know, I've been a CM gal for a long time. So, looking back, I can see that this album, I finished this it took me until 2014 to finally get all the pages finished of this book. But this was obviously before I had this big aha moment, which I talk about in my what I would do if I were going to start over video as a scrapbooker. So as a scrapbooker, what would I do differently? Looking back over the last 25 years of when I've been doing this, what would I do differently? And yeah, I know the feeling, not having cropped in a long time. Yeah, I've been there. I think a lot of us have been there. So what would I do differently? I love the fact that I have this album. I really do. And here's the thing. This is the volume 2. So back in 2006, if you remember in my videos, I talked about this big explosion. We had 4 children. We were taking pictures all the time. I just couldn't even get everything into one album. So I started making 2 volumes of albums for each chronological year. And this was when I also thought I had to scrap every single picture. Who out there thought that they had to scrap every single photograph? Okay, that was kind of the thought we had, right? We have to put it all in a book because I took a picture of it, so it has to go in an album, right? Thank you, Lauren. I'm glad you're joining us. And Margie, yes. Oh, just Margie's a frozen screen. I'm sorry. Don't know how to help. Anybody can help her. Maybe they can give her some suggestions. I'm still new at all this too, so bear with me. Okay, so that's why this album is actually starting in July, because this is the second half of the year. But going back, so now I thought, well, it's interesting to look back at an album and see what the choices I made were for this album. But if I were to do it over again, I think how lovely it would be to have the kind of the system of where I'm headed now. And this is where, if you're interested in finding out more, you can find out a lot more in our Progress on Projects group, my Facebook group. Just search for Progress on Projects and you can find us. Yes. All right. And in that group, we talk about the 3 different types of albums, kind of the 3 different prongs of albums that you can choose to work on, and how I've kind of organized it. It came out of myself needing a way to organize so that I don't have a whole bookshelf full of volumes and volumes of albums that I'm just going to run out of room. That was my main thing. I was going to run out of room. I couldn't scrapbook all the pictures, for one. I just couldn't. And I don't have the room to hold all the scrapbooks that would create if I did have a chance to make them all. So given that, we're going to work on instead big moments by the year. So this moment, this 2006 would be about, instead of 2 volumes, it would be only about 15 pages at the most. And then I would go into my theme albums. And even in this book, we took a trip this year, and that's not even in this book. And it's still, 3 inches thick. So theme albums, that's for the kids, and for all of those, you'll see a lot of kids photos, which now what I would do is I would pull those out. So I thought this was kind of a good album to really talk in some more depth about. And then the last is big moments, and Lynn is really helping me with big moments, which is taking special photographs and taking a look at those across time, and really kind of, it's Stacy Julian's theory. It's all from Stacy Julian, who is a fabulous scrapbooker and has a wonderful podcast. If you haven't checked out her podcast, it's called Exactly Enough Time. Highly recommend it. She's just a go-getter gal, and I love listening to her. And she came up with the Library of Memories concept, which is just looking at people we love, things we do, places we go, and all about us. And I've got a whole series that talks all about that. And like I mentioned, you can ask questions in the pop group as well. But those library memories is now where you're going to start taking different photographs, like say, if you're a bike rider, you're a hiker, and you get a look at those pictures across time rather than just a single snapshot in the middle of a year. So you're going to start making longer connections, bigger connections, deeper connections. Okay. We can talk more about that in another video. All right, so let's get started. I'm going to kind of roll through this. If anybody saw my last Instagram, well, let's see, a couple Instagram posts ago, it's so funny because when I opened this up, I'm like, oh, there's the torn paper again. But I did a post about torn paper. And my first try at that was in my honeymoon album, which I did, so many years ago. But if you want to see a picture of that, you can just hop over to my Instagram feed, and that's craft.some.joy. Somebody already had Craft Some Joy, believe it or not. So I have dots in mine, but you can find me. For sure, you'll see the one with all the scrapbooking stuff on it and organization, because I love talking about organization. But there are some torn paper pages there, and here you have it again. This is July 4th. And I know we usually get some folks that are not just US, so it's kind of fun to start with a holiday that's meaningful for wherever you're joining us from. Okay, so yesterday I was able to talk a little bit about, I'm going to move this over for you guys, see if that's a little better, and try not to get the, let's see, the glare for you. I know glare is bothersome. Let me see. So I think I'm almost there, huh? I'll just hold it up a little bit till we get more bulk on that side. Okay, so yesterday I talked a little bit about my whole system, and I've been doing this for a long time. So this was back in 2006. I was actually working on this in 2014, and I think it was actually about that time, if I look back. I put in the pictures in 2013, kind of finished everything up in 2014 from my notes. And what I remember is that there was kind of this thing that sketches started becoming a really fun thing to do back in that time period. And you'll see that I actually started doing some sketches. So as I'm flipping through, what I want you to do, I thought it'd be kind of fun to do a couple things. If you are an old CMer and you notice these papers and you go, oh, I have that, okay, because I know there's a lot of us out there that are like, oh, I have that paper pack. I never knew what to do with it. If you remember the name of it, post it. I thought that would be kind of fun to do if you want to play along with me. If not, that's fine. You can just listen. And then the second thing, hi, Sharon. Yay, thanks for joining us. It's okay. We're just chatting. So as we're joining in, so if you recognize the paper, okay, and most of, I'd say probably 95% of this is going to be Creative Memories paper. Just make a little tag, go, oh yeah, I remember that. I can't even remember the name of this one. It was, can't remember the name of this one. So help me out, you guys. It's been a while. And then as I want you to pay attention to how my layouts change. And I thought that was really interesting because every time I pull an album down, what I love, I just mentioned this in my Instagram, is every time I pull down an album, what I love is that I'm instantly transported back to this time and these moments. And I can do that because one thing I want you to realize as I'm flipping through is that the story is more important than the stuff. So the pictures and the journaling is more important than all this stuff. And sometimes, yes, we have stuff because this was an invitation to my girlfriend's bridal shower and, you know, where we had it. And so you put those little things in there. But what's really important too is focusing on the pictures. And so this is the layout that I did on my Instagram, you can see. So what do you see when you first look at the pages? And that's really what I want you to kind of notice as we're going through. This is a typical Lauren scrapbook page. It's blocks of color, it's adding strips, it's adding the journaling, it's adding titles, and then anchoring the stickers in different places and writing about the story. But what you notice are the photos. The photos, hopefully, that's what you're noticing. The photos. And so that's to me the important part, is that when I'm looking here, I don't want to remember the paper pack that I used when I open up a scrapbook. I want to remember the event. And that's just me, that's just who I am, and that's kind of how I teach. So you gotta have to bear with me if you are more of a crafty out there, love to do all this stuff. There are a ton of talented people out there that can help you with a more crafty page. But if you like this, you know, I'm just going to kind of keep talking through this process. So again, it's just lining your photos up, creating that eye line. And what I have found is that it's so easy to look at the photos and to look at the pages. And really, it's like you glance. To me, when I look at a page, I glance at the picture, so I start remembering the event. And then if I want more information, what I do is I go and I read the story, because I've got the journaling on the page. Okay, so that's kind of the whole key. And you can just do a little clustering. This was way back when Creative Memories had licensing with Disney. So we had some cute little Disney stickers that we were able to use. Very fun. So now we're kind of shifting. That was Eric's birthday party. To see the pictures and remember them. Exactly. That's my thought. Thank you, Pam. That's all my whole point. That's kind of why I started this channel and started kind of showing a different way to scrapbook. The simple, easy, fast way to scrapbook. But still fun. I mean, I still have fun. So this was from, oh gosh, what was that pack? That was one of those power palettes. Can't remember. So you guys are going to have to help me. If I can remember these names, I'll try to shout them out. But again, clustering photographs, having just blocks of paper as an accent, and then just really focusing on the photographs. So now we can say, oh yeah, I remember that backpack. That was a big thing. Eric was super into bugs when he was 3. So we got him this whole bug setup of, you know, here's your bug catcher, and here's where you get a look at the bugs and a magnifying glass and the whole thing. So he went to town. And then we just had a fun little family dinner. So then here's where I would say, okay, let me go back for a second and just talk how I would do things differently now. So how many pages did I have of Eric's party? I have 2, 4, 6 pages of Eric's birthday party. So how I would do that differently now is that I would have 1 2-page spread in my Family Big Moments album, and I would take the best photographs from these pages and put them in my big moments. And where would all of these other photographs go? These would go in a book that was about Eric, all about Eric. And so he would have a 2-page spread maybe of his best photos. And what's so great now is that how can you pick just a few? I know, but you're still going to scrapbook all of them, Pam, so don't worry. But what's really great is that now we have this, you know, back in here, we didn't have this product, but now we have the Peekaboo Pockets, so that even if it's a 2-page spread, the great thing about these little guys is that you get 2 more pictures, so easy, right on the page, just like that. Excuse me, just a sec. Okay, so you can load up if it's just a 2-page spread, you can load up with more pictures by using the Peekaboo Pockets. And I can't wait because they're getting the new ones in, which are like a whole 6x12 size. So if you wanted to do that flap, a whole flap of another page. So, but the idea is really to kind of condense down and just go, how can I celebrate his party? So his party, I would pick a few favorites from his party. Actually, I'll show you. So I know this isn't the same because Adam is older and we don't have as many pictures, but this is the idea. So this was Adam's birthday this year, my older son. And so it's just the dinner and then the gifts on 2 pages. And yes, when they're older, you don't take as many photos. I mean, I don't have a party or anything like that for him, but that's kind of the setup is dinner, you know, what we did as a family and maybe a little bit about his gifts. And then you get to celebrate that in 2 pages rather than 6 pages and so much room in the album. So that would be, all the extra photos would be in Eric's book about him. Okay, so we're not losing any of those. Then the miscellaneous things like bugs. Okay, so these pictures, that would be in all about Eric. So this is the library of memories, right? So library of memories would say, what's unique about Eric? Okay, so when he was younger, he loved bugs. I could do a whole 2-page spread and just talk about the story of how much he loved bugs. Okay, I didn't do that here because this is a snapshot in time, but if I have pictures of him and all the different times that we looked at bugs and we caught bugs and all of that and put those all on 2 pages, wow, that's a great kind of event and story to tell. So that's the difference between a snapshot and library memories. Okay, so let's go on. So here we are, just kind of, again, this is 2 pages when we had some new grass put in at our house. So this would go more into a places we live album rather than just kind of living in the chronological album. And I would still put the date so that I would know when that happened, but this would kind of, then I would see all of these progressing, all the things that we did for the house. And a lot of people do a house book. You know, kind of if you've done we've done more remodeling than I can care to remember over our lifetime and with the kids, but sometimes it's nice to see that in a chronological kind of succession in a book rather than just kind of 2 pages here and there. So again, this is when we were just having that yard installed and doing some gardening. So these are just lovely to look at, and it's lovely to look back at that, but the story is less than what it could be if it were organized a little differently. So that's just kind of how what I want to say about that. Okay, also just aesthetically, I really enjoyed having these large letters to make titles, and sometimes I think that's fun to do and can be done easily and quickly, because I'm all about easily and quickly, is that when you have kind of 2 pages and maybe a lot of empty space, think about making kind of a bold title or using a big sticker, kind of like I did here, that just kind of pops and let your eye go to that. Okay, so we're going to move on. This is the same one that was in the beginning of the album, her wedding. So I did some cutting for the titles. And if you haven't had a chance to use vellum paper, vellum is really nice and gives a very soft texture, kind of another layer and another dimension to your albums. And the only thing you have to do is make sure you use an adhesive that's made for vellum paper so that you can you don't see it through it. Okay, so again, just lining up photographs, and like on this one, this was a special photo of her and her dad. And Jackie was actually my roommate, and for many and we met in college, and a dear friend. And so this was a very special day when she got married, and that was her dad. And so one thing I like to do if it's a very special picture is I separate that off on the side, and then that's when I'll go ahead and back that photograph or kind of make it stand out in some way. So that's how that works. Here again, the invitation, some more photos, and this was one of the CM wedding sticker packs from long ago. So there you have it, the vellum paper again. And here's some more. So you can see here, I'm lining up the photographs here, having a couple special photos up top, and then adding in that vellum. So these pages you can kind of all feel. That's another thing I like to do when it's a similar event, is keep that same theme throughout those pages. So you can see I picked the green. Now we're continuing with the green and the vellum, and the green and the vellum, so that you know all of those pages kind of flow together. So that's another thing you can do in your albums. So this was getting back into Eric, and again, that big title, this was one I cut for him. And this was a special day because it was his first day of preschool. So kind of getting right into his preschool. Yeah, I love the Peekaboo Pockets, Pam. Love those Peekaboo Pockets. I can look back and say, wow, what a difference my pages would be if I had those Peekaboo Pockets way back also. So let me get that reflection out of there. Okay, so I think this is kind of where I'm going to start. You'll see my pages are going to start changing because this is when I got into sketches. And so I just want you to kind of pay attention now that I'm flipping the pages, and you'll notice it even more as I kind of run through the album, that the pictures are a little more scattered, and just kind of get your feel. Like, do you like it or do you not like it? Is it interesting and kind of fun to look at? Or is it harder to kind of see the pictures and the story as we go through it? So that's kind of what I wanted to show you about this album. This was one of my favorite things to write about. I love this, is just if you have boys of your own or if you have girls, just take a minute and get those miscellaneous, like this would be an obvious Library of Memories page setup. Life with boys. What's it like raising boys? What's it like raising girls? What's it like raising an only child? What's it like not having kids? What's it like having 3 dogs? What is life like in your snapshot at the moment? That's kind of really fun to look back and go, what kind of mischief are they getting into and what are they doing? Okay, so here again, this is our older daughter, Ellie, and now you can see I'm following sketches. You see how the pages change? So now I'm taking more time, and this was a time, I had a lot of fun. I'll say I had a lot of fun. I would flip through, find sketches and go, okay, I want to find a sketch with, 5 photographs or 3 photographs. That's kind of sometimes how sketches work. You can pick by 3, 5, however many photos you have, and then work on that. But for me, at least when I look at this, it's a little harder to look at. I'm not quite sure. I'm just not quite sure where my eye's supposed to go. This one's not bad because, again, everything's kind of lined up again. And this was just as the summer got hotter, what we ended up doing. Now I mentioned here, this was also way back when Creative Memories did 12 by 12 prints. And just a little aside here, they had 2 programs. One was called Storybook Creator, and one was called Memory Manager. And just an FYI for all of you who might remember those names, those are now, those programs have been purchased by a company called Forever. And Forever now has renamed Storybook Creator as Artisan, and Memory Manager is now called Historian. So I did these pages in Storybook Creator which is now artisan. And you can still do that, and you can still print 12 by 12 pages. And the great news is Creative Memories has just released that they are now printing photographs. And I have an order in, and I'm really excited to get that, to check out their quality, because you know I love printing at home. So I'm trying to find a really good alternative. But that's why I have these page prints in here. And I do have a whole book, because I like taking our travel photos out and creating a book of our trips. So I have a whole book that is devoted to that vacation. Okay, so just something else as I'm going through. One of the things I hope you are noticing is that a lot of times I think it's fun to put larger photographs. And I would encourage you to try this if you haven't in your albums, is if there's a great family picture or something that you just want to kind of highlight, try printing it larger. Try a 5 by 7 or an 8 by 10 or an 8 by 8 or a 12 by 12 or a 6 by 12, whatever works. It's very interesting, I think, and very fun to kind of, as you're flipping through, have those other size photographs. So I encourage you to try that if you haven't in your albums. Sometimes it takes a little longer. My printer at home, I can do that. But if you order it, I know sometimes you have to wait for those enlargements, but it's worth it. So this was at the Arboretum, which is very close to where I live in Southern California. And it's a beautiful public place. Fantasy Island. Anybody remember that show? Fantasy Island was filmed here at the Arboretum. And so a lot of times we just take the kids and go for a walk over there. And here's something that's really fun you can do with, the kids. They love taking pictures of all the different little things that we see as we're out and about. And so I actually just printed those. I just talked about printing larger. Well, I actually printed these smaller. And so that is a fun thing to do if you have a lot of these miscellaneous little snapshots, is you can just line them up, print them all the same size, and then line them up, and you can do a whole border of those, because maybe they don't tell much of a story, but they're kind of fun to look at, and then you can tell the story with the rest of your photos. You guys remember the laser cut stickers from Creative Memories? Way back? There they are. Okay. Fun. See? Still you can use them. Here again, mixing it up and adding that big photo in with the smaller photos. Okay. Some border strips and more of the laser cut. All right. So we're moving on. This is getting into the more sketchy kind of layouts. I kind of went back to my normal, and now I think this is when we're going to kind of get into some more. So you can see the pictures are kind of more spread out, but still able to kind of see them and tell the story. Okay, and let me know if you have any questions as I'm going through this too. I wanted to make a pause right here, and here's again something that it's nice to have in my album, but this would also find a really special place in a theme album, which I'm also getting going, which is for our pets. And this was my mom's little Yorkie, Bonnie Bell. And when my mom passed away, we, of course, took in Bonnie Bell, and she just became a part of our family. And if you look, she's in the kids would put her in the little scooter, the little car scooter, and she would put her little paws up there, and they'd have so much fun with her. She was just such a wonderful part of our family. But she was also older, and so we had to say goodbye to Bonnie. And this was just a little remembrance of her. I took a little snip of her fur and put that in a little memory pocket. And Creative Memories has these little memorabilia pockets. And you just tape that shut, and you can stick that on your page. And then there's, some little things that are tucked in here. So it's always, I always say scrapbooks are not just for the good, but for remembering everything about your life. And even though there are times when things are sad. It's really nice to have a remembrance and to kind of look back and write about that, and write about what a, what kind of an impact a special pet or a special person had in your life. So definitely all the good, all the bad can go in there. I think I have in, I can't remember which album it is in right now, but I have pictures of when my kids were crying. I put those in my albums because that's something to write about. It's life, right? So you got to give yourself grace and move on. We all make mistakes, and that's just the way it is. Because COVID brain yesterday, can't believe. Today's Friday. Happy Friday, everybody. Okay, here we are. So this is going back in again to, now we're going to start into my sketches full time. So I do really like this page, these 2-page spreads. And that's another thing I've had people ask is, do you always work on 2-page spreads? 95% of the time, yes. I think of photographs in a 2-page spread because it's just easy to look at that way. Sometimes you have to mix events, but there's always a chance to kind of pull an element across those 2 pages when you're looking even at 2 different events. So this was when we went to the desert out by us and had a little getaway. But here you can notice my pages are really starting to look different. I hope you can see that. So there's no eye lines. I'm kind of grouping things together. There's pictures set off on different places on the page. So not that it's bad, not that it's good. It's just different. And just kind of see what you're looking at as I'm kind of flipping through these pages. I still find time, or places, I should say, I still find places to write the story and do the journaling, but it's kind of more in between areas rather than like say on a journal card necessarily. Okay, we're getting back into, this is another sketch layout with some more torn paper for all of you torn paper folks who like that. This was another old CM kit that was, I think this was a boy kit or something, I can't remember. But, there's always a chance to dig into your stash and make all that stuff look good. So check it out. And here we're still in the school theme, so you can see I'm bringing the paper and the torn kind of idea across because we're still doing first day of school kind of stuff for the 2 older ones and then the 2 younger ones. Okay, and here's just some more pages that again, kind of a big background, doing things a little differently than my normal standard there. Sometimes it's fun to, this was something I did back with Storybook Creator. You can do this in Photoshop or some of the editing programs where you can lasso an object and have that as the color and then make everything else black and white. So, sometimes it's fun to kind of get your artsy on with your digital photographs when you can do that. And then here we have the layout again for another sketch. And this was definitely, I remember looking at this sketch going, oh, that's a different way of working with paper, where you take the super big patterns. Have you guys done this? I'll show you the pattern. So you might be familiar, Creative Memories has these custom cutting system, which, gosh, I've had for eons, to create the shapes, like your circles and things like that you would put on your page. I think I had those way back here, like this, a circle. So you use these, if I can find it. Anyhow, it's something like that, the circle pattern, and then you cut that. But they also have these giant pattern pieces that you can use for cutting paper. So these come out every now and then, and this was just kind of different ones that I had from long, long ago. And that's something you can do if you want to switch up the background of your layouts, is to use one of the big patterns. And you can see it's actually made, you can cut a circle to go on exactly one page, a 12 by 12 page as well. This one I did kind of half pages, if you see that. Okay, so little something different there. You remember those, Pam? Good. Okay, so here is definitely a sketchy type sketch. And I remember this sketch because I was with a friend in Big Bear. We went on a little retreat just to scrapbook, which is so fun. Are we all remembering those days when we could get together now? Yeah. Mm-hmm. And made the edge of a paper. This was in Creative Memories Halloween primary. This was from the primary collection. I remember that. And the Halloween editions. And so you can see, though, again, you're kind of looking all over the place. Fun, but just a different style, right? And then, so kind of circling back around, these are things that I would still put in my chronological album, would be holidays, birthdays, big events like that, Easter, Valentine's, all those fun things. This looks like Audrey's birthday. So November, this was her birthday. So again, we're kind of moving in. You'll see, actually, I do have several pages of her birthday, but so instead of 3 or 4 pages, whatever I have, I would do one page that would kind of signify Audrey's birthday, and then take all the rest of those and put them in the All About Audrey book. Okay, and I think something to kind of also realize is that you can make it work, especially with the Peekaboo Pockets. I think that you can, pick your favorite photos. And this is one thing I've realized. It's been hard for me to just keep telling myself, you don't have to scrapbook all the photos. You don't have to scrapbook all of them. And you don't have to keep all of them. It's okay to let some of them go. So just, keep telling yourself that. If you have trouble like I do of saying, I have to scrapbook all the photos. I have to, because, way back, that was the thing. We had to scrapbook all the photos, but really you don't. You don't. So this was her party. So I had 2 pages, another 2 pages. Yep. And this was also her birthday at preschool. So 6 pages of Audrey's birthday. So you can see how much this impacts kind of a family chronological album when, you just feel like you have to scrapbook all the photos. So we're kind of getting back into my normal style of just lining up photos, but a little mix, sketchy and lining those up. And then we're back into some more kids in school. So this would definitely be transferred into their school books. And one thing I think what I realize when I look back at these and I go, this is fun to go back and remember these different moments. And I was there for a lot of these, but also how would I say this? Is it really necessary that all of these are captured in my family album and in their school album? Or can I pick one or the other? Because if I'm scrapping it here and I'm scrapping it there, that means that's another 2-page spread that I am not doing that might be telling a different story. So if I want to tell the story, where should I tell it? Is it better in their book or is it better in a family book? Because in my family book, to me, now, as an experienced scrapper, as I look back, to me, one of the things we say is you've got perspective now. Now that you're looking back and you can look and see this over time, I think it would be more meaningful for me in a family book to take a few, or in a library of memories, to take a few photos of me volunteering at their school and talking about what that was like for me to volunteer at their school rather than doing 2 pages. Does that make sense? I hope that makes sense. Yeah, one or the other unless it's super important. Okay, so this is also a really fun time that I probably would maybe keep in the family book, which is when we had Generations Day, when Grandma could come and visit the kids' classrooms. And then here we go, bath time. Do you remember this palette? This was Candy, what was it? Candy something from Creative Memories. Candy Shop. Candy Shop. These fun colors. So this would be fun, looking at bath time pictures all across time. And I have a ton of those. And I am going to be making a bath time because I'm not caught up on some albums. So I haven't scrapbooked all the bath time photos, but how fun to look at those across time, right? Okay, and then here we have the sports and the soccer. So this again, yes, I found a place in it for my family book, but this would also then just maybe a few select photos to kind of highlight what all the kids did for sports, and then their albums would have all of the fun, juicy pictures of team pictures and, those great action shots and different things. So I think for me, that's the big lesson, kind of as I'm going back and looking through all of these, is that I'm really understanding I don't have to scrapbook all the photos. And that's going to help me overall be more efficient and be a better scrapbooker, is that when I get a photo, I can ask myself, is it a big moment? Is it a special occasion? Is it something that I really want to talk about in a family book? Or is that more of a theme oriented? Is that part of a bigger story I can tell somewhere? And that is what's really important to me. So instead of tucking in photos of, like here Ellen has a little dog. I'll give you an example. She has this little dog she made. And then here she drew this picture of her brother. Well, if you guys know, if you've seen, she is an amazing artist now, okay? To look at this photo that how she started drawing and what she can draw, let me show you. Because I love having her art here. Oh, excuse my reach. This is what she can draw now. She watercolored this. Look at the difference, right? And so to be able to talk about her as an artist, as a maker, that we like to make things and we like to sew and create and do things. And she likes to draw, and the difference of seeing how she progressed over time, that's a fun story to tell, right? That's amazing. So instead of sticking those little pictures that get lost in a 2-page spread, right? You get to tell that story over time. That's important, in my opinion. Okay, we're getting into Christmas time. One of the things we always like to do is take pictures when we find our Christmas tree. So that is something I would keep in my Big Moments album. But it's all these different decisions that you have to make and what works for you as a scrapbooker. So for me, what works, the finding our tree, time for finding our tree, that's going to stay in my Big Moments, because every year we take pictures when we go pick out our tree together. And then Christmas, the day of, those photos I'm putting into my Christmas album, and I think I've shared that one with you, because I have been told by so many folks, and I want this to happen. It's so nice to take out your Christmas album and put that out on a table during Christmas time, and then you get to see Christmas 2 pages at a time. So Christmas Day is going to go into my Christmas album now, but I'm still going to, all the festivities I still want to have representation in my big moments. So that's how I'm kind of tossing that apart. But if you don't want to do a Christmas album, I would definitely keep it in big moments. But we have kind of two things we do. We get our tree, and then I usually take pictures of the kids decorating the tree, like with lights and putting the ornaments on and different things like that. So that's kind of a fun thing that, again, looking at, so the Christmas album is, the idea is that you get to see the progression of the kids or your family or whoever you're taking pictures of at Christmas time, kind of over time. And remember that Christmas, remember this Christmas, and you get to look at it all in one book rather than taking, 15 albums off the shelf to look at Christmas. So that's my idea for Christmas. This was a Christmas party. We had a wonderful group of friends. We called them playgroup. It was just playgroup. So they had been together since they were little babies rolling around on the floor, and we would kind of rotate whose house we did that at. So that was a fun event. And then just some special people and who helped us out, and then the kids' Christmas picture. So again, you can see I'm just kind of wrapping up the year Christmas-wise. The glare's okay with that. Yeah, it looks okay. Okay, a little glare now going on this side. I'll do that. Okay, so here is something, again, I kind of went back to looking at a sketch, and there's no gaps in between these photos. To me, that's a little harder to kind of zoom in on each photo. So that's another thing I realized when I look at my pages that have eye lines. Let me go back and find one like this. Those little gaps kind of help differentiate each photograph. For me, that's what I find. It's easier to kind of look at each picture on its own when there's a little gap rather than no gap. That was just something I kind of realized. But it's also fun to do sketches, so I totally get that too. And then this was the end of the year and going to Grandma and Grandpa's house for Christmas. And then here we have the bike riding. Remember, Lynn, bike riding? So we were just talking about this yesterday, how I had pictures of bike rides. Where was that? Can't remember where I tucked those photos now. But we loved, this was the park I was talking about yesterday where we would go. It's called Lacey Park. And they had a huge paved walkway around the park. It was a really big park. And so this was something we did quite a lot, was get the kids on the bike so that they could just ride around and have a good time. So there we have bike riding. Again, another story that I could take the photos of. I was sharing photos from our Grand Canyon trip yesterday, and the story that I had of when we took our bikes all the way out to Arizona and what happened. And so here we have, again, we could kind of tell a whole bigger bike story by kind of adding those in there. And once again, bikes. This was when Eric was learning how to ride his bike, and he had so much fun with his little training wheels. One of the things we had for a while were the pocket pages, and this was something I like to always add in at the end of my scrapbook, was, kind of a place to tuck in little meaningful cards, maybe that didn't end up in the album, but that I just wanted to remember from special folks. And one thing too, I'm going to just go back to where I started here, is you can, hold on, let me find my book. Okay, so this is the album I was working in yesterday, and we've only got a couple more minutes. So if you have any questions, let me know before we wrap up. But this is the Arizona trip I was telling you about. Here's the bike photo. And what I forgot to mention yesterday when I was working on this is not only is it great to get all of your photos organized and ready to go into your albums, but I forgot about memorabilia. And so that's what I want to kind of wrap up with today, since we're looking at the pocket pages, I went back into my memorabilia stash, and I have a video on how I organize my memorabilia, but basically it's the same pocket that I use for organizing. Let me grab one. Ah, where is it? Here we go. Found one. The same 12 by 12 sleeve that I use for organizing smaller paper packs. I use these same sleeves, and I slip in a big sheet of paper, and then I label it with the year. And I can't show you one right now because I don't have one right handy, but I organize my year memorabilia the same way in these 12 by 12 sleeves. And so I went back to 2012, and lo and behold, I found memorabilia from this trip. And then as you're doing your albums, you want to make sure to include that. So this was one of the papers that they give you at the national parks, and some printouts of what I had done for the petrified forest. So this is just going to kind of tuck in the back of my vacation album. And then there was, let's see, I know I found some more fun, remember these little postcards and different things from that trip. So, you know, as you're going through a travel album, I probably don't even need to tell you this, but remember to grab all of those fun little doodads that you collect along the way, and then you can add those in with your photos. So this was on Meteor Crater. That was one of the places we went. And so those will end up on my pages with that. And then these fun postcards from the national park. So don't forget memorabilia, and those always have a fun place to get tucked into your album, both for like a theme album, a travel album, you can tuck it in the back. And then for a family album like this, if you have special cards or birthdays or different things like that, you can either use a pocket or one of the giant pocket sleeves for those. Okay, so let's check in. How are you guys doing? You love the pocket pages? I do too, Mary. Right now, they don't have this style of pocket page available. They might bring it back, but they do have the large pocket pages, which work just as well too. And Pam, you have so many years of pictures to scrapbook. Should you start on year 2020 and work backwards? That is the great question, and a lot of people, from what I've seen and what I would think of, is yes, start current and then go backwards. And the same, I feel, is easier, at least when I've kind of gone into my digital photos. For organizing digital photos, it's the same. Start with your current year and then work backwards. It's just fresher in your memory, easier to make decisions, and to get the story down. So if you have to start somewhere, if you want to start with big moments, so, you know, kind of as I was talking through this is not a big moment. This is like I have to scrap every single photo type album. But if you kind of narrow that down and look at your big moments chronologically, it can be so easy to get a year completed, and you'll feel so good and feel like you've made a lot of progress. And if you're kind of wondering what a big moment looks like, again, going back to the pop planner, I have handouts. These are available on my website that you can download. And these are just some ideas of what big moments are. Family member's birthday, New Year's, all the holidays, Mother's Day, Father's Day. If there was a special wedding, if it was a special little outing like Disneyland, anniversary, those kind of things. So for you, what are the big moments? And then you get to write those down. There's a blank template. And then you get to write those down and then put the date. So when you're looking at your photographs, especially if we're talking recent, 2020, 2019, so forth. Everything's pretty much digital, so that you can just go directly to those dates in your photos and pick those, select those, and get them printed and into a book. So hope that makes sense. Yes, start with current. Yes, that you're most excited about, and the details are fresh. Yes, thanks. Thanks, Beth. Okay, so thank you so much for joining me today, and I hope you enjoyed a flip through of one of my albums. And feel free to leave comments or let me know what else you would like to see. If I know some folks prefer just regular videos, and some folks just, you know, enjoy a chance to kind of chime in and see what's going on in my craft room. So let me know your thoughts, and keep safe, stay well, and I so appreciate you all joining me today, and we'll see you in the next video, which will be out soon. So take care. Happy scrapping. Yes, lots going on. Creative Memories has a virtual crop, I'll just say. If you want to join in, you go to Creative Memories Facebook page, and they have challenges. If you're interested, check it out. Okay, thanks everybody.